Hi, I'm HD Chambers, Superintendent of Schools for Alief ISD, and I want to welcome everyone to ImpactED, a podcast sponsored and supported by the Alief Independent School District and the Career and Technology Education Department. And we hope that everyone is doing well as they listen or watch this, or both. I am here today to have a conversation on a very, very, very interesting topic. Not that our other topics aren't interesting, but this one here is of particular interest because of its uniqueness. And I'm proud and honored to be sitting here with three individuals that have worked to make this happen. Today we're going to talk about aviation. We have an instructor, a student, and then our director of career technology education who oversees our aerospace engineering program. And a part of the aerospace engineering program, a large part of it, is our aviation program. And so we are here today to share some insight, to listen to the instructor and the student and their experiences. And hopefully, if you're listening to this or watching this and you have an interest or a desire in the aviation field, maybe this will be helpful to you, and you may learn something and expose you to something you weren't aware of. So joining me today is Ms. Jennifer Baker. She's our Director of Career and Technology Education. Mr. Steward Bailey, who is the instructor of the Aerospace Engineering Program and quite frankly is responsible for lifting it off the ground. I guess metaphorically, I guess. And then we have a student, a senior at Elsick High School, Miss Cindy Lee, who is an aviator, and she'll talk more about her credentials and what she has earned and what her future plans are as it relates to the field of aviation. So with that, welcome to all three of you. And I'm going to start real briefly, Jennifer, and ask you just to maybe set the groundwork for how we got here. But more of Mr. Bailey and Cindy is going to be better as we go through this conversation. So Jennifer, you just kind of how do we get here, and then let's talk about the meat of the program.
Well, so I will say when I came to Alief, 5 years ago, one of the first people that started calling me was Mr. Bailey, because he has a great passion for aviation, and he even then knew that there is a shortage of pilots, and he wanted to do something about it. And after a lot of years and a lot of hard work, it finally hatched, so to speak, and got off the ground, if you want to say, our aviation program. And this is where we have purchased a kit. Actually, it's going to be 4 kits from a particular company, and the kids are actually building an airplane that they can fly if they want to. but it's after I did my little small part of getting the kit and all the money and all that for that with the help of a lot of other people. Mr. Bailey and the kids have taken it to the next level, and they are working diligently. I'll let them tell you everything, but it started about 5 years ago, but we're really now in the throes of, I don't know how far you guys are. What do you got, about a quarter of a plane built right now? But anyway, I'll let them tell you all of that. It's super cool, regardless.
Well, I just want the context of the listeners to know this is not just a club building model airplanes. This is an actual program where students are taking programs and actually being credentialed by the United States Aviation Department to fly drones. And so as you're listening to this, please be aware that we're talking about real aviation, real airplanes, real pilots, the whole 9 yards. And and I want to emphasize that because that doesn't happen everywhere else. So Stewart, talk a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got here and what where you see the program now and what your ultimate ambitions are for this.
Well, my name is Steward Bailey, and I started in Alief back in 2008. Went from intermediate to middle school, started doing technology in the middle school, and I actually got my AMT, my aviation maintenance tech license, and I've always been into aviation. My whole family's in aviation. Dad and brothers are also mechanics, so I just wanted to try to afford an opportunity to the kids at Alief, and I chased Miss Baker down, like she said.
And these are actually real classes that the state of Texas allows us to offer. So it's not just a whim that we're building an airplane. This actually follows a course, a pathway of courses.
Yes.
So we just added those pathways for you to do this.
And the support of has been amazing. I mean, we've taken road trips to Montgomery. We've been around. She's even, and I give her so much courage, she's flown with me to Kearns to see some other programs so we could really design a really great program. And so at the end of the day, the kids are delighted and essentially are meeting the expectations that I'm setting before them. So primarily we were focusing on piloting and mechanics. And I'm like, well, let's get drones too. And it was a little easier to attain than the piloting. So the kids were buying in, and we started getting a program together. And she allowed me to kind of go canvas the environment. And we work with the ALPA, which is like the biggest aviation organization in the United States area. That's the curriculum we use. So it also provides piloting as well as drone curriculum. But we also use King Schools. So we're going to make sure these kids pass and meet that expectation. And Cindy was my first student to pass her Part 107 and become the first drone pilot. So she's absolutely amazing. All the kids revere her. All the mentors revere her. And my program would not be what it is without her. The kids are very intricate to making sure our programs are outstanding. And once I said, I think we're privileged to do a podcast, the whole class was like, Cindy's going to be there.
So, you were appointed, huh?
Yeah, she was appointed. So, and she can tell a little bit about the drone program that she's literally spearheading. If I'm not around, she'll get the drones together. She'll get them authorized to fly in no-fly zones. She understands the software, the hardware, as well as the actual authorization process and the serial numbers. She's literally taking over the program. So, go,
Cindy, tell us just a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're a senior. I know you're getting ready to graduate high school, but talk a little bit about what you knew about aviation before this program and how you've gotten to the point where Mr. Bailey has described you, which is kind of the ad hoc professor of the program.
Okay, so I was a part of Mr. Bailey's program during my sophomore year, and he kind of just snatched me out of my other classes and said, like, hey, you're going to be here now. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. Honestly, my freshman year, I thought I was going to go into medicine, something like a pharmacist. And that was my thought for 10th grade year too, but I started to stick with Mr. Bailey because he was talking about airplanes and all these different things I had no idea about. But I'm glad I stuck with him because now I'm not too into flying, but I just love working on airplanes, and it's just absolutely amazing. So in our program, I'm constantly surrounded by very ambitious people, Mr. Bailey being one of them, and also my other fellow classmates who want to be pilots, fighter jet pilots, and so much more. And I guess that's really built up my inspiration. And I'm planning to go to the Aviation Maintenance Institute and get my airframe and parapet license to be like Mr. Bailey. And yeah, what Mrs. Baker mentioned earlier was our partnership with Tango Flight, and they're the ones who's giving us the curriculum to build this RV-12IS plane. It's been crazy. I remember specifically during summer school in June or July, Mr. Bailey called me and said, the plane is finally coming in. And I was so surprised because I know he's been working on trying to get that plane for at least 3 years. Yeah. And it felt, honestly, very unbelievable that it was coming in so quickly, like before the senior year. And me and some of my other classmates showed up. We met the mentors. We met Mr. Wyant and Mr. Anthony, who are basically directing the program. And it was just awesome and mind-blowing learning all these different things, like riveting and sheet metal. And in the summer was when we finished it making a mock vertical stabilizer.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a part of the actual plane, but it did give us a lot of experience and some of the hardware we were working with. So yeah, it's been a real trip.
Did you know anything about aviation before, other than, I mean, we know about airplanes, but did you know anything about or have any knowledge that you were interested in aviation?
No, in fact, before my sophomore year, I've never been in a plane before. Mr. Bailey was the one who pushed me to actually go on a plane ride with Mr. Brown, who's a really great pilot. He's a very calm and just overall very disciplined guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first time I rode in the plane, I was riding in the front seat, and I never thought that could happen.
What did your parents say about all of it? I'm curious that when you said, hey, I'm going to go fly in this, what is it, a 4-seater that you guys probably flew in?
Oh, the first time it was a 2-seater, 152. We call him Woody. He was yellow like Woodstock.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
We call him Woody.
Well, what did you had to ask them for permission, I'm sure, to get in this. What do they think about all this with you? I'm curious.
First of all, my mom was terrified because I've never actually been in a plane before, and she was like really nervous because once she saw like this like small general aviation aircraft plane, she was like, "You're going to be in there?"
Right.
I was like, "Yes." And she was very worried, but she was also super supportive, and I know it was really hard for her to overcome her fear and anxiety of just me going up in the plane.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really thankful and grateful for her and also my brothers for supporting me through and through.
That's good.
You're not every parent hears their kid come home from school and say, "Mom, I'll go fly an airplane."
That's very true.
Mr. Bailey, you talk about, if you don't mind, just talk about the class itself. You know, Cindy mentioned disciplined, ambitious classmates. Talk about the class and the makeup of the class, the students, their interests in the different parts of aerospace engineering. I'm curious about that.
You know, we're starting to really evaluate choice, and the more choices you give kids, the more impact you can make in the community. Because everybody doesn't want to fly.
Right.
Some like to work, so I give them the opportunity to fly. Then when they come down, I look in their eyes and I'm like, and they're like, I think I want to work on it. You know, and so if they're exposed to it, I think being exposed to flying the plane as well as working on it, I can understand the whole, how can I say, just the whole science of it.
Yeah.
If I'm in the air and I feel the forces, when I come down, I know how to structure that aircraft right because I know what it undergoes when it's up in the air. So we primarily try to give the kid the full scope. So then now you can generally really make a great choice on which direction you want to go and transition out of high school. So when we started incorporating the drones, we started looking at the market as well. And we're like, oh my God, all the news companies, all these real estate companies, all these guys need drone pilots. So I'm like, you know, you can actually start working while you're in high school. Because once you turn 16, if you work with me to get your Part 107, you can actually work part-time. You can build your skills. So when you transition out of high school, you're already experienced.
Right.
And Alief has really supported us on that by getting us the right equipment to put us at the leading edge of, you know, the drone environment with DJI equipment. And we went on to different levels of production. And I'm shocked. She's probably the best producer. She's made different video subjects that are really entertaining, and she layers her you want to explain real quick? She's like literally the best producer right now, even with the drone technology, as well as I call her my project program manager for the shop. Because once we started getting the inventory in, she immediately took out of a lot. And this is how you get to see the efficacy of your kids. Sometimes you don't want to always lead them. You want to provide an environment and watch them tackle. And she already busts out this Excel program, and she's calling the kids over. What's that part number? And she's inventory. So anytime the mentors are looking for a part, Cindy, we need the left section of the empennage ribs. Oh, hold on. Okay, it's in bay number 3, and so on and so forth. So every time Tango comes in to just check on us, they're really taken aback, like, oh my God, you guys are really running a good shop. And Cindy, we think we want to go ahead. You want to tell them the opportunity they offered to you when they came and visited?
Oh yeah.
First of all, let's make sure everybody, Tango, I want to make sure everybody understands who is or what is Tango, what's their role?
Well, it was an instructor out of Buffalo, Texas,
Okay.
and he was a pilot,
Okay.
and he also worked on his own experimental aircraft.
Right.
It's not certificated, so you can buy these kits, and as a fabricator, you can put it together, get it checked out to make sure it's airworthy. So he decided to bring a program to his school. And another business friend of his decided, well, why don't we make this perpetual? Why don't we spread these things out and make it available? We were already in communication with Van Airlines to get an experimental plane, really close to getting it. But there's still some T's you got to cross and some I's you dot, to make sure it's legit. So Tango Flight kind of just swooped on in.
Okay.
And it was like, hey, we think you guys are more than qualified. And that's when Cindy and this was the funny thing. They were like, well, Mr. Bailey, can we meet you and your mentors? And we'll see if you guys are up to code to build the program. And so they came in, and I'm like,
Well,
you know
first they didn't. They already had all the people that they wanted to have take to all the school districts they were going to do, and we had to convince them that they had to add us because we had been telling the kids we're going to do this, and so it was a lot of convincing. But that was the final thing, is that they came. So I'm just telling you, it was hard to get on their list of people, but we did, and now they think they're fabulous. So, but
and so they showed up, and they're like, well, we want to have the mentors here, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna invite some kids. And he's like, oh, not really, it's for the mentors. And so I'm like, I invited the kids. He says, you know what? We're going to start encouraging the schools to invite the kids on the introductory level. Yeah. And because it's kind of better to train our mentors and teachers with kids around so we can kind of see how you interact. And they just left overwhelmed. We finished it in the time. We built the vertical stabilizer that I have behind me. And from then on, we built 2 wings, stabilator, vertical stabilizer, and the center section of the cockpit. So we're moving right along. We do a 2-day regimen, but now the mentors are like, we got 1 more month, and we kind of want to do the tail cone. So they're willing to come in 3 times a week. And community support is important. And these guys don't know our kids and our demographic. They travel quite a bit voluntarily. And we've given them nice little training. The kids, once they get that relationship, Mr. Bailey, we need to get them shirts. We need to get them this. So we afforded them shirts and everything. But these guys have now almost dedicated themselves to making sure this thing does not fail, and that it's perpetual. That it goes on for a couple of years. One of our mentors is a surgeon and pilot. Learned from his mom, Mr. Breckner. Yeah. Tom Boyd actually brought in another visitor who is a missionary in Africa, Congo, that flies different aircraft. So these kids are meeting influential, powerful people that are connected. We went on a field trip to the Henderson Jet Center, and we met the CEO of the airport, who was a very vital part of Harvey. Yeah. And he sat and told us how these Huey helicopters were coming in for HEB and all these different vendors. And he was the conduit to getting everybody their resources. And he sat in a round, like a little tribe round group with us, just as relaxed and chill, and just was breaking it down. And we just and so I'm like, kids, you can go to college for airport management. Yep. Because he told his story. I thought I wanted to be air traffic controller. I had a couple hours as a pilot, but now some guy just walked up to me and he's like, did you try airport management? It's like, nah. And then that's when he told the kids, don't ever be afraid to pick up the phone. Because my first opportunity was a guy just walked off the job. Yeah. I called looking for a job. They're like, come on in. Yep. And now he's built 2 airports, one, the Houston executive, and we're part of the EEA chapter out of there. And he's built the other airport in Austin. And he prides himself on his architecture. He has the biggest canopies out of any private airports that have fit a 737 underneath. So this is one of those exposure avenues that these kids are now like, oh my God, I never even thought I can come in this airport and to be able to sit down with them. So
much less we talk to the manager of the
exactly.
So let's talk about your opportunity. what Tango used?
Oh yeah, what Tango
Is
told.
there something that Tango's?
Remember when Tango's like, "Oh my God, we're so impressed with you."
Oh.
Yes. And she does this thing where she does her. You know how when you say something unlike, and you gotta kind of get ahead nods.
Yeah.
So Cindy does that a lot because she
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So they offered me kind of like a scholarship to, I guess, Spartan Institute
Wow. She's
Oh
on
my
point.
goodness.
in
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they offered to pay for my room and board there.
Wow.
And that was really amazing. All I had to worry about was just getting my certificate. But I've decided to stay locally. It was a really great offer, but there are also a lot of aviation maintenance tech schools around,
Mhm.
like AIM, which is right near a hobby airport, where I could stay to locally.
Yep.
Because I'm more familiar
Yeah,
with
I
Houston.
understand.
Well, now you also got accepted into what's the big college that you got accepted?
Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yeah, that's a huge. Yeah, that's too.
And that's not she's not the only one in his class. You want to talk about the stats of how your kids have done, the seniors?
Oh man, this year, especially this year, out of the whole class, only 2 who gave me like lesser effort didn't. Everybody else passed their Part 107s. We got some that might go to work. I have a connection with NASA, and it's rewardful that they could start off at 48 to 50 a year, no degree, and it's called meeting support. We got 3 going to American Airlines Cadet Academy. One girl decided to forego the Cadet Academy because she just wants her degree at Embry-Riddle.
Mm-hmm.
She just showed us in a group message her flight to Embry-Riddle to visit. So she signed up for the fall. Alejandra and Cindy got accepted to Embry-Riddle. And so now we're starting to teach and make the focus for our demographic to prepare financially in your 10th grade. I would get you in, but can you pay for it?
Yeah.
So we're really starting to set the focus on let's start getting our scholarships and our things the year prior so that we'll be prepared to enter into the opportunity that, they've been working so hard for. So that's going to start being the new focus. They're building the efficacy and the skill set. It's just, can we afford to go to that university? So, but Cindy did get offered also to be the poster child at Tango Flight. And that's when she started giving the nods and looks like, well, what does that really mean? It's like, and we're going to send you up to Oklahoma. We really want to. And then so, I had to break off later because she always leaves everything to question. Like, she doesn't really tell me until she's already made her decision. And so I found out from AIM, we went and took a field trip. And she was happy because she's like, Mr. Bailey, when I visited, it was a Saturday and nobody was here. When we went on a field trip, it was in action. Yeah. They was doing landing gear applications, a turbine from a helicopter they was turning on. And then they had another group that was in the back doing 6-cylinder teardown and rebuilds. And she's like, this is where I'm going. So the next thing I know, Gabby says, this is where I'm going to. And then they just loaded us up with pizza, sodas, and snacks. And we jumped back on the bus and we were back at campus before dismissal.
I'm curious about the drone program. You've kind of alluded to it, and I know you have a lot of students that have participated, taken the FAA National Federal Exam, been certified. Just maybe talk a little bit about the future of drones. I mean, they're everywhere in our life. We don't realize it a lot of times. You could be watching a sports production and you're seeing these overhead views. You used to have a blimp.
Exactly.
Now we've got drones. Maybe talk about what your take is on the future of drones and your interest in it as a student.
Okay. Well, generally, we do kind of look around and say, oh my goodness, drones are everywhere. And it's still introductory, especially to kids of Alief, because they're so socially involved, social network, and watching a lot of video productions and things like that, to actually be able to create something from a drone that does aerial entry and different missions, we like to call them missions like that. The kids are starting to understand that that is the best way to actually get those kind of shots. So you're starting to see these schools popping up and opportunities pop up in jobs. Solar panels are popping up everywhere. Every solar panel installation has to have a drone completion. It's better than sending that guy up there, you know.
Exactly.
Even me and Ms. Baker talked about real estate and disaster relief type applications and missions. We do more of the funner around school, and different locations in Houston type, commercial type missions. But there's a lot of missions for from industry inspections in Houston to, I mean, you can name them. They're endless.
Yeah.
So
They even have, remember we talked that one day I called you and I'm like, they have these things, so it's like calling an Uber, but you're calling for a drone.
yes,
And it's a businesses who need a drone mission for whatever reason, and they can go to this site and find drone pilots in their area, click on them, and then those people get their drones and go do this mission for these people and get paid for it.
Like
Yeah,
an
so-
Uber drone. Or
Yeah.
So essentially, if you have your license, you can literally enter into a website. They're trying to provide you the job.
Yeah.
Or anybody who's looking for a drone pilot, they try to make that connection.
Make the match.
But the beautiful thing about us in Alief and my kids is they can get the FAA drone license. And we went and did we went to West Houston with the 99s, and the girls did a presentation for them. And there's one girl named Gabby, she stands up, from Honduras, and she's like, I'm fighting so many different factors right now, and just the fact that I was able to get, and then so she started to tear up, and I had to interrupt her because now I gotta look up and try to keep my eyes from welling, and I'm like, come on, Gabby, and everybody knew it. She just like literally caught us all off guard, but it hit her in the moment.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I actually have an opportunity. And so it's suited, to give opportunities to kids in that have those challenges of like, man, how can I try to make a means?
Right.
And this is a way, because once you pass that Part 107, you are legal to make money. So she has found a way to make money. Why not? Why she's going through those hurdles. And so that has been a focus for us too. Let's provide entrepreneurship for kids, because there's so many opportunities. And now coaches are coming to me, hey, when you're up here, Bailey, I'm gonna come get that 107.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's like a tidal wave going, and they're seeing the opportunities. Man, we can film our kids, we can help programs and sport programs. But with Cindy, and if you want to speak on it, what's it doing with the kids and how they're partaking in it and whatnot?
So, I just really want to clarify real quick that you do not need an FAA license to fly a drone, but what we're preparing them for is for them to fly it for commercial purposes so they can make money off of it.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I can go buy a drone off the shelf somewhere and fly around. So
But if it's over 0.55, you must what?
You must register it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like on YouTube, you see a bunch of people who are just hobbyists. They just don't like to fly a drone for cinematography.
Right.
It's all like really great work. But if you want to fly it for commercial purposes and actually make money from it, then you need a Part 107's license. And that's what we're preparing our kids for.
107, that's part of the exam, because is that just...
Well, it's just the FAA categorization of that particular
that
license.
particular test,
Yeah,
okay.
Part 107.
All right.
And I really want to emphasize just how big the drone industry is growing. So the summer of last year, just after I got my license, Mr. B and I were just looking up on Indeed.com and other recruitment sites about what a drone pilot in Houston would earn. And if you had a Part 107 and just any degree in engineering, you can earn up to $90K.
Oh, wow.
Blew my mind.
Yeah.
It really did blow my mind. And that's why I think a lot of kids don't know this.
Yeah.
They don't know just how much potential being a drone pilot holds. You can do pipeline inspections, real estate inspections, or you can start your own business, do your own cinematography and filming, whatever your passion takes you. So that's kind of what we've been doing this school year, basically Mr. Bailey has arranged some days for us as a class to go outside and practice our drone cinematography. And I've learned a lot more than before. I actually got my license, such as authorization zones, because as you know, FAA safety is above all, and they want you to have all the paperwork and whatnot. And also just learning the cinematography side of it, and just being more creative with what we do with our drone shoots to just get our skills and experience there. That's just been really fun on its own too.
I want to point out that for any educators that would be listening to this in Texas, the Drone Pilot 107 is an IBC industry-based certification on the TEA's list. So it's also a win for the district for kids getting certified in that.
I've as I've sat and listened to you, Cindy, talk, I'm thinking about the students who all they know about aviation is watching TV or seeing a plane. We're all familiar with airplanes. Everybody knows it. And unless you're involved in it, you don't realize all the other peripheral opportunities that Mr. Bailey has talked about. It's kind of like when you think about a hospital, you think about doctors and nurses, right?
Yeah.
And you think that's the only people that work in those hospitals. But then you go into a hospital and you see all these other careers, all these other that have nothing to do with dealing with a patient. Same way in the aviation industry. Has that surprised you? I mean, all the different. You don't have to be a pilot to be in aviation. Is that?
That's very true. Like I mentioned before, before my sophomore year, I had no idea that aviation was this big. I mean, you hear about it, oh yeah, pilots make a lot of money, they get vacation days, all those good benefits, but you don't really think more on a deeper level. And for my 10th grade year, I was struggling to decide if I wanted to pursue pharmacy or do I want to keep going on this path that Mr. Bailey has shown me. And when I say that you can't go wrong with aviation, you really can't go wrong with it. Yeah. And that's something I've come to understand over the years. You can work for, like what Mr. Bailey said, as base operations, be an airport manager, air traffic control. Of course, there's piloting, but then you can also be like what I'm going to do, be an aviation maintenance technician, and make sure that planes are airworthy and that everyone stays safe. But it also extends beyond that because aviation is interconnected with a lot of other industries, just as medicine, which are also a lot of big industries. So you really can't go wrong with aviation, no matter what. It's just a huge field with so many opportunities. So that's why I'm glad I stuck with it, and that so many other kids are starting to get this interest in aviation.
What do other kids that are not familiar with it, like a sophomore, put yourself back in your shoes 2-3 years ago? What are you telling them? What are you guys doing to educate a 9th grader or a 10th grader about what are you telling them? Oh,
so there are those career days at the CTE Center that we had here, and I remember me and Gabby, we were here around last year or so, and we were giving out presentations showing the middle schoolers what we're doing in this program, and we were telling them about how there are hundreds of airports in Texas alone, maybe even more than universities in Texas. And we were showing them all the drones we're working with, which we have the DJI Mavic 2 and also the FPV goggles, which are a new addition, and also the big Inspire 2s. These are professional grade drones. We're not working with the $99 ones. Those are nice, but we're working with something that will give you more real world experience. So
these are the kind of drones the military is using. I agree with you. I don't want people to get confused about the drone they can go buy off the shelf versus what you guys are working with.
Yeah, they travel pretty fast. So they're hard to outrun. and like she was saying, I've also learned how expensive just in market.
I've learned how expensive all of it is.
I said expensive.
But she's talking about something else.
And expensive.
Oh, yeah, that too.
But it's just primarily how the world runs through aviation. you need products. And most of these products travel via aviation. And so you try to steer a kid from what he's always accustomed to doing and what he sees in his surrounding environment. Oh, so what you gonna do, man? I'm gonna go get a job. Where I guess the mall, or I'm gonna go. Well, why don't you try ground operations at an airport? And you'll make around 16, 17 an hour. The affluent people you meet, just your interactions, it starts to prepare you for a whole different type of opportunity. So, generally most of our kids look at airports like they're non-entry areas. They see these big gates, they see these signs that are foreign to them, so they don't even think they're welcomed. And just the fact when we go and we walk through the terminal and we sit on the back and planes are taxiing in and we're smelling fuel. And, one time we had a girls' day out. Right now, Girls Rock. My girls are killing it.
How many girls do you have in your program?
Oh, my goodness. Right now, we're probably leaning on around 9 to 10. And I think it's from you, Gabby, Allie,
Nubia,
Glendy's, Alex, Stephanie, Stephanie,
Jessica.
Jessica. Yeah, so
we're
we're smashing, and the guys are just trying to follow suit. They usually go and grab tools for them because their expertise level is really up there, and the guys are really respecting it. And I just think it's that momentum right now. I think girls are really motivated to immerse themselves in these positions, and with great leadership, Nubia being one, and Cindy being one, Alejandra as well. I remember she came back, she's like, hey, I got this big Part 107 cheat sheet deal. And the kids are like, come here. And so they're now starting to synthesize curriculum and opportunities. And it's kind of shocking for a teacher to sit back and watch synthesization from your kids. Like, oh my God, they're creating their ways. And but just the exposure to these environments are starting to build this type of motivation in them.
I agree with you on the momentum part of it. It takes a heavy lift, as you mentioned earlier, to get something going. But once you do, and you find champions like Cindy and others, the word gets out, and people want to know, what are they doing over there? And next thing you know, they're building an airplane. That's like I said earlier. That's not a common program in a high school. That's not common. I want to go back because I'm interested in the growth of the program, and I'm interested in how you, from a student's perspective, how you would advise us as adults as we make decisions about the continuation. You're going to graduate and you're going to move on about your life, and you'll to the day you die, you will always remember the exposure you got in aviation. You'll remember that and where it started. I am interested in your thoughts on how do we improve the program? How do we market it? In other words, how do we help? When I say we, the grown-ups, how do we help make sure other students are aware of it and that they have the same opportunities, whether it's a teacher dragging you into his classroom? But what is your advice to us to ensure that this program continues growing and that every kid after you has an opportunity to experience what you've experienced?
I think part of how we get the name out for our program is like before we're still doing those career days here at the CTE Center, especially for middle school students, because they're fresh, almost like going into high school, and I feel like a lot of them, like me, I didn't know what I would want to do, and just keeping that in mind and actually seeing real things that you would work with if you were to go into the program, tours and such. I think that really does change. It's like, wow, it's actually here. It's actually within like arm's reach. I can actually do this if I wanted to. The program so far, I think it's honestly given me much more real life experience than any other class I've been in, because it's allowed me to get a practical license and also practical experience on working on an airplane. And not many high schoolers can say that, yes, I've been working on an airplane. And also, we take a lot of field trips and have lots of different guest speakers, so the kids can actually speak to people who are already like on top of their game on aviation and all those things, and it's just wonderful to see their face light up when they're like, wow, I never knew that was possible. I'm going to do this now. Yeah, the program has been amazing. I'm not sure what more we can do besides working on.
Maybe we just once a
build.
plane is built, we bring that into the center. That'll get their attention.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like how she kind of alluded to touring, because we did talk about, just being aware, because there are asking middle schoolers to make decisions without them really touring enough. So maybe I would agree with you on that, Cindy. Maybe some more tours
So the cool thing about, the interesting thing, I don't know if it's really cool, but it's interesting. Their hangar, quote hangar, is in an old auto lab at Elsik High School. So it's been, as best we could, converted into this. We call it they call it the hangar.
Yeah, everybody buys in this the hangar now.
I love that. It's called the hangar. Anyway, so you know what? I think we need windows in the hangar so we can see it, because it's an old. Like I said, the only thing that you're going to see when kids are walking through the school is if you were to raise the garage doors, and then it would be super hot, and the AC would all get out. But anyway, to put windows, I mean, it's the visibleness of what. That's a big part of attracting kids to programs.
And we're also starting to get these big business partners to start to come to the schools. When the school shows a heavy interest, like Mr. Chambers was saying, the guys were like, okay, so you got kids interested? Oh yeah, we have a whole room sitting, waiting motivated. So these guys are now starting to open their minds to coming down. I've also been partnering with some of our middle school instructors to help prepare kids for that transition up to high school. And we have some eager middle school instructors who are working with me to build connections with, like United. I got one in Kilo. He's trying to build a connection with United and partner with United. I've been partnering with American Airlines. So to get these guys to show up, I remember one time, the first time I had my American Airlines Civil Air Patrol visit, and they brought in a reserve drone pilot, and he flies the big ones that look like planes, but they're drones. And they brought a Delta pilot in. So the kids, the one thing the kids always ask, well, how much you make? And that's what really, and I remember when I did the PowerPoint one day, I went out and just got a bunch of canes and some tea and invited parents in, and they came in with their arms all crossed, because I have some of the best kids, and why am I here? My kid's supposed to go to Texas A&M. You're wasting our time. He's a surgeon. And I was like, I understand, but you might want your son to give you a flight somewhere one day. And so I did my whole American Airlines PowerPoint. And at the end of the PowerPoint, it discussed how, when your child retires, he has $4.5 million in this for. Okay, so now I got all these parents in the line staying after. Yeah. So it's like, so I changed your parents' mind too, And even just Cindy had a young man from Kerr who was thinking of being a pilot. So she comes to me, she said, Mr. Bailey, I need a fly day. I say, Cindy, for you get whatever. So who is this guy? I got a friend at Kerr that wants to fly. He's thinking about being a pilot. So call up Mr. Bass back, can we get a fly day? He's like, yeah, we'll put something together. So we show up, and primarily now mom is sitting and brother is sitting, watching and absorbing. Now brother wants to get in the plane, so it's infectious.
It's an exciting industry, no question about it. Because a lot of us, to your point earlier, most of us are not aware of it. It's just an exciting place. You go to an airport, it's just busy. You see planes flying, leaving, coming. I mean, people everywhere. It's just an exciting place, and once you get to know a little bit more about the jobs that are there, then you can begin kind of picking your place. We're not going to do this, but I could talk all day. These are the types of programs. I've said this several times on other episodes, but these are the types of programs that I hope that we as adults are doing everything we can do to make sure that the students have opportunities and are exposed to them. And I know Jennifer and her team, and I obviously know that you and your team and the students are helping to engage and helping to educate so that they are aware of it, just like you just described. Sometimes it's with a formal presentations, and sometimes it's just somebody walking by and seeing something in a window and going, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Congratulations to you. It's kind of nice to know when you graduate high school, at least you have a plan. Right? You kind of have an idea what you want to do. Not everybody can say that. Now, that may change in 5 years, but at least right now you know what you want to do. So congratulations, and I'm extremely proud of you. Extremely proud of you.
Thank you. Our program really won't be able to get that far without the help of our contributors, because I know Miss Baker has worked really hard with Mr.
Yes.
Bailey and some of the other people at CTE and CTE Center to actually just get the plane here. And also Mr. Olson, our wonderful mentors who take Tuesday and Thursday off from their days just to come to school and work with us for 2 hours or so. It's just been amazing the amount of support we've received from the community. And I just want to thank everyone for giving us spirit, drive, and also this financial support to keep on doing what we love.
That's awesome. Well, there's people out there that care about you. There are. And we just have to keep working on it. Even people that don't even know you, they care about you. So you're right. And it'd be probably be remiss if we didn't mention Franklin Olson. He's a longtime supporter of our school district and has written several big checks.
Yes, he has. Thank you.
To help fund what you're describing, and so we'll keep working on our end to try to bring those types of individuals in to help support the programs that you participate in and that you lead.
Yes, sir.
But Mr. Bailey, thank you for your passion for this and for your willingness to take that passion and share it with our kids.
No problem. I'm enjoying it.
I can tell. And Jennifer, as always, the leadership, and if there's something to be done, ask Jennifer. She'll go get it done. She'll get it. And if she can't, she'll bloody her knuckles trying.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again. Very, very, very grateful for all three of you. This has been ImpactED. I'm HD Chambers. I hope everyone has a great day. And I hope that you learned a little bit today about aviation and the Aerospace Engineering Program in our school district. Take care.